Hi guys, today we're gonna make meatballs and I have everything lined up, so we're just gonna go through it. The recipe is not on the food blog, so don't go looking for it, but there are other recipes like the sauce recipe you can get on my food blog, which is www.cabeuser.wordpress.com. And you can find all kinds of good things there, but let's get going with these meatballs. So tonight we're gonna do meatballs and spaghetti. As I said, I've already gotten the sauce prepared, and we're going to make these meatballs and bake them. This is way too many for us to eat tonight. So what I do is I cook them and then I let them cool and I place them in plastic bags in the freezer so we can have them for another meal. Let me tell you what we're getting started with here. I've got 1 pound of hot Italian sausage, and that's in here already. And I've got 2.5 pounds of ground beef. I've got very clean hands. I made earlier some fresh breadcrumbs, which I seasoned. So I used one of Panera's baguettes and I pounded it out, and you can see that on a different video. And so we've got some nice seasoned breadcrumbs. There's no salt or pepper in them because the salt and pepper will be in the meat. So again, 1 pound of hot Italian sausage, 2.5 pounds of ground beef. And we're gonna start off, we're gonna put garlic, granulated garlic in here. It's about 2 tablespoons. You know how I like garlic, so we're going for the gusto. Then we're going to use Italian seasoning, and I said I already had some in here, but we're gonna add more into the meatballs. There's a tablespoon and a half of Italian seasoning. We're going to add thyme, and thyme always brings out the flavor of meat, so I make sure I use thyme. And we've got oregano. Now I know that in the Italian sausage, I don't know if you know this, there is a licorice flavor. Sometimes it's aniseed, and then other times it is going to be fennel. So we have that flavoring in there. Next, I'm going to add some peppers. I'm going to add 2 peppers today. I'm going to add a crushed red pepper. So I've got about 3/4 of a tablespoon, and I've got about a tablespoon of pepper. I like spicy meatballs. You know we like spice here, and so we're going to make sure we do that. I've got an adequate amount of salt. I'm using kosher salt and not sea salt today. So we'll put that kosher salt in there. And I've got 2 eggs. And then I have 2 cups of the seasoned breadcrumbs. And I'm gonna do this with my hands, and we're gonna get it all mixed up. The breadcrumbs are nice, you can smell it. When I was making them earlier in the food processor, it was so fragrant, it was so wonderful. And the secret to these, well, there's a couple secrets that you can use, but the secret to these is gonna be the cheese that you're gonna add. Today I'm gonna add mozzarella. I didn't have enough Parmesan to do it. I like Parmesan better, but I had mozzarella. Remember, you may not always have the ingredients that the recipe calls for, so you make do with what you have in the refrigerator, and we're trying to clean out the refrigerator week here. I already have a baking pan ready, a baking sheet ready. I'm gonna spray it with my EVO sprayer. These are invaluable. You get them on the internet. They're really, really cheap. You get 2 in a set, and they're perfect for spraying. Now, if you're spraying other oils like walnut oil or avocado oil, this may not be the perfect sprayer because of the thickness, the viscosity of the oil. So make sure you're getting a sprayer. If you use a sprayer, make sure you're getting a sprayer that is indicated for the oil that you're using. And this one is for extra virgin olive oil. So we've got it nice and sprayed, so that's gonna be good. I am going to grab something out of the pantry. Normally, I use fresh onion, but today we're not going to use fresh onion. I'm going to use minced onion, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to put quite a bit, and I should have had that out and ready. I had my fresh onion and I said, no, we're not gonna do that today. So remember, you can modify and use things that you have on hand. You do not have to follow the recipe exactly, unless it's baking. Baking, follow the recipe exactly. So here we go. We're gonna go ahead and start mixing. Let me bring this over here so you can see. I'm gonna take everything up from the bottom. Make sure that I incorporate all of those ingredients and get those eggs mixed. And the eggs basically help to bind. Now, if I wanted to, I could add a little liquid smoke. Whoop, we lost half the meat. I could add a little liquid smoke. I could also add Worcestershire sauce. One of my favorite things to add, and I learned this years and years ago when my mother used to go to parties in Buras, Louisiana. They would make meatballs and they would take little bits and pieces, little pieces of lemon, and they would put lemon in the middle of the meatball. And it very refreshing, and it was fun to get that little zing at the end. So we've almost got this all mixed. And you see how I take it and I squish the inside. Now, I don't want to work the meat too much because if you do, it becomes dense. So you make sure that you try to get all those ingredients incorporated as you're doing this, and don't press too much. Remember, you don't want to have a meatball that is going to be as hard as a rock. You want to make sure that the meatball is going to be a little bit lighter. Meatballs are going to be dense anyway, but the less dense, the better. We're going to take this cheese now, and we're going to incorporate the cheese. And I'm going to turn the video off in a second so I can go wash my hands, and then I'll be right back. So let's get this stopped here. So we're back after a little housekeeping here. We're going to make 2 different sizes of meatballs. And remember earlier in the video, I told you that you could modify or change. You can put parsley in here. You can put other herbs. If you wanted to put a rosemary and have a rosemary meatball, you can do that. You can change it up to meet the needs or the tastes of your family. So we're gonna make, as I said, 2 different sizes of meatballs. The first one, we're gonna use a scoop, an ice cream scoop, and this is helpful in making, if you're doing something that you really have to present and everything has to be the same, you want uniformity, use your scoop. So they're gonna come out about like this. See that? Nice and cheesy. We're gonna do a couple of those, and then we're gonna make some Mondo ones, some really big meatballs. And get that rolled here. Remember, when you're working with raw meat, you always want to wash your hands. Now, I have friends, and my mother, who was the cleanest of all cooks, she would always taste her raw meat. I prefer not to. Hopefully, I've gotten that seasoned enough to where we're okay. If you want to taste it, you could microwave a little piece of it and then give it a taste to see if you've got the right amount of seasonings. But I think you should, if you eyeball it and you know your seasonings, you can pretty much be okay. I am not going to eat raw hamburger meat. Lots of times, if I would process my own hamburger meat, and I do that occasionally with brisket, then I would feel okay about doing that. So we've got this, we've got about 5 of them. This will be 6. And I always spray my pan because they will stick with the cheese. If you don't have the cheese, it tends to come off the pan a little bit. When I do these, I always use foil, and it makes it a much easier cleanup. I just throw the foil away, makes it much easier. So we're gonna go ahead and do about 3 more of these. It looks like I'll have 2 pans. My oven's at 350 right now, and I've preheated it. I'm going to cook these for approximately 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes. And what I want is, I want the internal temperature to get to at least 145. We'll see how that goes, since they're a little thick, but hopefully they should be about right. I don't really want too much browning. I want a little bit of browning, but not too much. And I'm gonna go ahead and finish these. The other meatballs that I'm gonna make are gonna be a bit larger. And let you see these here. And then as soon as they come out of the oven, I'll let you see what they look like. We'll be back. Hi guys, we're back, and I wanted to show you what these meatballs look like. Now I used my handy dandy little thermometer here, and this thing is perfect. We really didn't need to even do 20 minutes. I've got another pan in there. They got up to 150 degrees, so in fact higher than that. So we are good to go. You know, since you have pork and beef you can do a little bit lower temperature, but with pork you need to be doing a little bit of a higher temperature. They are not really browned. They have a little bit of color, but this is what they look like. Look at that. Beautiful. And the cheese is nice. It's a little oozy. We're gonna let these cool, and then we will place them in bags to put in the freezer, and we will have a great meal in the future, and we'll have a great meal tonight. So try my meatballs, and you take care. Thanks for tuning in.